sexual abuse of children, and the SPVM is preventing me from engaging in that protest in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, thanks to a spurious criminal harassment complaint that Sue Montgomery brought against me in December 2017. I will say that I intend to contest the conditions. We're going to make one last effort to negotiate a change to the conditions with the Crown Prosecutor. A new Crown Prosecutor is on the case. The older Crown Prosecutor is apparently on sick leave. He wasn't very easy to deal with. And speaking of Crown Prosecutors, this is a picket sign that I displayed when Quebec Crown Prosecutors were on strike. I'm just going to make sure the camera's still running here, because I'm not sure how much time's left. Okay, so we still got some time. Okay, so some years ago, Quebec Crown Prosecutors went on strike. And when they went on strike, they protested outside of the Palais de Justice in Old Montreal. And so they basically had dozens, if not some hundreds, of Quebec Crown Prosecutors with picket signs outside of the Palais de Justice. So I thought, well, that's a pretty good opportunity to protest against Crown Prosecutors repressing and undermining charter rights and freedoms, which they most certainly have done. They've repressed my rights, and they've repressed the rights of numerous other Montrealers here in Montreal as a result of acting upon effectively SPVM police repression. You know, the police arrest people and place conditions on them and bring charges against them. Well, it's not the police that bring the charges, it's the Crown Prosecutors. The Crown Prosecutors could look at the evidence and say, well, this is total bullshit, and they could just throw it out, but they don't. Well, they do sometimes perhaps, but more often than not, they act on the complaint as if it's valid, even when it isn't, even when a competent Crown Prosecutor who really knew the law would realize, like, there's no hope of winning this case, or the chances are so slim that it's really hardly worth proceeding on it, but they proceed anyway. It happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to many other people. And that's essentially what's happening now. The complaint that Sue Montgomery made, in it, there's really nothing she's saying about me that constitutes criminal harassment. As I said, a few peaceful public protests. It's all right, Joe, you can go behind it if you want.
Okay, that's great.
A few peaceful public protests in front of election campaign debates and an interview of candidates by CBC Radio. One tough question that I asked all three mayoralty candidates about SPVM police repression of peaceful public protest during one of the mayoralty debates. I suppose she might want to throw into that a tough question that I asked her at a Montreal City Council meeting on November 27th or 28th of 2017. And then, as I said, there was just this one chance encounter where Sue Montgomery was walking down Marlowe Street as I was standing on the corner of de Maisonneuve Boulevard and Marlowe Street waiting for a bus and talking to a friend when she came down. And since she was there, since she was walking by me, I just reasonably politely reminded Sue that she had falsely accused me of libel while she was the Gazette's justice reporter. She had arranged to have the Gazette's media lawyer, Mark Banty, falsely accuse me of libel in an effort to intimidate me into removing blog posts that tell the readily verifiable truth about Sue Montgomery's complicity in Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse cover-up efforts. And I made it clear to Sue that she needs to formally withdraw that accusation and apologize for it. So far, she's done no such thing. I just want to make sure this thing's still running. Okay, so we got still a few more minutes left. So, that's the story as far as Sue Montgomery's past and indeed ongoing complicity in Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse cover-up efforts. Sue has known since at least December 6th of 2012 that the Unitarian Universalist Association hired Stikeman Elliott barristers and solicitors defamation lawyer Maitre Marc-André Coulombe to falsely accuse me of violating Canada's blasphemy law in Unitarian Universalist Church legal bullying, which sought to intimidate me into removing the Emerson Avenger blog posts that told the readily verifiable truth about what Maitre Marc-André Coulombe described as such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers. I had blogged about the fact that Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell of the Northborough and Westborough parishes in Massachusetts had lured teenage Tibetan refugees away from their families in India with promises of a better life in America. No doubt he reassured their parents that he was going to take them under his wing and give them a good life in America. Well, he proceeded to use them as sex slaves for years. And this began when they were 16 years old. At least one of them was 16 years old when the rapes began. So this is sexual abuse of children in my books. And it's not pedophilia per se, but I did blog about another case of pedophilia. And there definitely are a certain number of cases of pedophilia. And of course, the Unitarian Universalist Church wanted this to disappear from the internet. So they falsely accused me of violating Canada's blasphemy law in June of 2012. Well, I told Sue Montgomery about this on December 6th of 2012, telling her, that in her capacity as the Gazette's justice reporter, that I think she should do a story about this. Well, of course she didn't. She did no such thing. And I have reasonable grounds to believe that she wielded her influence within the Gazette and also within the larger journalistic community in Montreal to make sure that nobody else reported that story either. Just want to check the time on the camera because it basically runs for half an hour and I don't want to be talking for nothing. Okay, so I got about 5 minutes left. So, getting back to Sue Montgomery and her role in this, I'm here today because of Sue Montgomery. If Sue Montgomery had not had me arrested for criminal harassment, if she had not been able to place court conditions on me that make it difficult or impossible for me to protest in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal without fear of being arrested for breach of those conditions, I wouldn't be here. I'd be in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal protesting. But Sue knowingly and willfully shut down my protest against clergy abuse outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal. If that's not complicity in, if that's not participation in Unitarian Universalist cover-up and denial of clergy abuse, which includes child sex abuse committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, not to mention Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, well, I don't know what it is. And I'd briefly like to mention that on March 18th of last year, while I was protesting, after my lawyer had got the conditions reduced to allow me to continue my protest in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, I was protesting on Sunday, March 18th, the day of the St. Patrick's Day parade, when Sue Montgomery walked right up to me and essentially tried to provoke me. I was under conditions not to communicate directly or indirectly with her, even though I had the right to protest at the church. So she literally, deliberately came to the church to seek confrontation with me and to try and get me arrested for breach of conditions. Thankfully, the police officers in that case also handled it very well. And after detaining me and doing an investigation as to whether or not I was actually in breach of conditions, they determined that I was not in breach of conditions, and they released me. But this was a clear attempt by Sue Montgomery to get me arrested for breach of conditions, to shut down my protest in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. She also kicked my picket signs into the street. She threw my picket signs in the street in efforts to provoke me into saying something so she could then accuse me of directly communicating with her. So I think we're coming to the end of this segment. I just want to make sure what the time left is. Yeah, there's very, very little time left. Still a little bit, so I'll yammer on a bit more. We're going to do another half-hour segment of video. But yeah, coming back to the Crown prosecutors are part of the problem too. I don't have any picket signs specifically geared to the SPVM yet, but I almost certainly will create some. These are old, previously existing picket signs that I've had, which I'm just using for the moment. And we'll actually display a couple of other picket signs in the next segment of video. So here we are, SPVM PDQ 11, Sunday, February 17th, 2019, protesting against SPVM, the repression of my charter rights and freedoms, preventing me from protesting against clergy abuse outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal, and also preventing me from exercising other rights. So yeah, it's 28 minutes, so I think we're just going to shut this down, and we'll get some other picket signs, and we'll start up another reel soon.